I probably should have knew this wasn't going to last long, but apparently they've decided to bring back Heihachi Mishima in the Tekken series, even though, I mean, it looked like it was as clear as day in Tekken 7 that he died after being thrown into a volcano by Kazuya. And he's supposed to be a DLC season 1 playable character along with Eddie and Lydia and someone else, I believe. And I think he's going to be a playable character this upcoming fall. I don't know exactly what month, but I'm not even sure whether or not his return is canon. I don't. I think he might just be a character that they decide to bring back just so people can play as him for fun or whatever. Because like I honestly felt like Tekken 7 was probably going to be the last we saw of Heihachi Mishima, but then again, Heihachi's way too popular of a character in the Tekken series. He's been around since, I believe, since like '94. That was back when the original Tekken game came out. He's been one of the main antagonists of the series for quite some time. For I guess being like somewhat of an anti-hero, but for the most part, he was an antagonist, and honestly, I feel like this is something that's going to make people more interested in Tekken 8. And I honestly feel like this is a result of the fact that Tekken 8 has not sold as much as Bandai Namco had hoped because last time I checked, the game sold like roughly over 2 mil. And I believe this game came out like months ago, like towards the beginning of the year. It was like in January or something. We're now in July going into August, and I haven't really gotten much of an update in terms of how much Tekken 8 has sold. And I feel like the same thing is similar with like Street Fighter 6, where it's a game that came out last year and it has sold roughly over like 3 mil. And it felt like Capcom was adding like, random DLC to get more people to buy Street Fighter 6. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with gaming in general. I'm not sure if people are not as interested in gaming as they used to be, or whether or not the cost of gaming is too expensive and people would rather just pass on that. But it's cool that Heihachi has returned in Tekken 8, and I'm not exactly sure whether or not Bandai Namco plans on dragging out the Mishima like bloodline storyline any longer than they have, because this is a storyline that's been going on since the '90s, and honestly, it's the best thing that they have. And I feel like if it's something that they decide to end, I mean, where do you go from there? Because like Tekken has become more story driven nowadays than it has been in in past decades before Tekken 7. And I do feel that Tekken I do feel like Tekken being heavily story driven is something that definitely helps the overall quality. I know a lot of people are more fond of like the arcade. I mean, it's still an arcade, based fighter, but back in the day, it's like the older Tekken games were really basic. They weren't really heavily story driven. Each character had their own gimmick, their own stage, their own theme song, and honestly, it's something that worked and appealed to many people, casuals and hardcore fans of gaming in general. And Tekken is not as simplistic as it used to be. It's more complex because as time goes by, things evolve, and you got to adapt with the times. And honestly, I do feel that Tekken 8 is definitely one of their better games. It's too early to tell whether or not it's going to reach the level of success that Tekken 7 had reached following 2015. But I don't think it's even been a full year just yet, so we may have to give it some time. But I do feel that Heihachi being included in Tekken 8 definitely can't hurt at all. And most likely, we're going to get more characters later down the line with like season 2 pass, maybe a season 3. But the thing is, the season passes are like really expensive because I believe the deluxe edition for the playable character year one pass is like $19.99, and that's for those who are Xbox users. And the Ultimate Edition is $109.99, and it's just like just looking at that. I mean, the price of and the cost of gaming in general is very, very high, and maybe that's probably one of the reasons why it hasn't sold as much because back in the day, you didn't have to worry about Game Pass or anything like that. When you bought a video game, you pretty much bought a finished product and you basically had unlockable characters on the disc. That's not the case anymore. And I feel like that's something that has definitely hurt a lot of video game companies and hurt a lot of recent games in general because they feel like video game developers are starting to become more and more greedy and trying to get as much money out of them as possible, and that could be one of the reasons why the Tekken 8 hasn't sold as much as a lot of people thought it would. Same can be said for Street Fighter 6, but either way, I mean, I'm pretty sure Bandai Namco they're going to end up bringing back more older characters later down the line.